meetings in Scripps Ranch. They had meetings in Alpine. Oops, they missed Lakeside. I guess we just don't count or matter. So the reason I feel betrayed today is because we weren't given a voice, and that's the process, and that's the right we have as a community. If we set aside land and we say, you can't build here because we want this to be a designated scenic corridor, we want this to be here for our children, for generations to come, and they come through and they say, oh, here's some nice land which doesn't have any buildings on it, makes it a lot cheaper to just take it. I think that's wrong. And I think our community needs to get together. We need to take down names and numbers of everyone who didn't know about this and would have had something to say to the CPUC, who would have had a voice and didn't get a chance. Because if we have 1,000 people who didn't have a voice, then that is factual. We were not notified. I don't care what you say you sent, but if it is a fact that we didn't know about it, that it was not appropriate notification, perhaps not sincere, then we never had our voice, and that's just not American. That's just not right. I don't think that we're the only community that is being treated this way. I know that a lot of wide open spaces are being seen as great open spaces for land that can be taken from a community that had other plans. So that's why I'm here. I'm betrayed, and I want to do something about it. I hope you do too.
Just so you know, Laura has been really instrumental in putting this meeting together, getting the word out to both the media and members of various groups in the city. And a lot of you are here because of those efforts, so we appreciate that, Laura. I'm not going to say a whole lot here, but I want to just mention something that I said at the meeting last week, just to put it in perspective. Now, I need to say one other thing. I think we all understand that mistakes have been made on all sides here. There were times where we should have taken greater action. There were absolutely times when other entities should have done so as well, which is definitely clear. Some of that is the state, some of it is the regulation. But just to give you a perspective on what the actual regulation is on notification, and they need to hear from us on this. We have a beautiful lake, not a very large lake, a beautiful lake, but I think it's fair to say that between here and the other side, it couldn't be more than, I don't know, 300-400 yards. I really don't know, or maybe this way. But the current requirement for notification is that you have to be within 300 feet of the main line, your residence. 300 feet. Now, if you watch the Olympics and you watch Usain Bolt, he could run 300 feet in less than 10 seconds. So that means that if you are more than a 10-second sprinter's run away from this pole, which would be right out about halfway across that water right there, if your house was right here where I'm standing, you would not have been notified by mail. Right. And there are a lot of people that need to hear that we need to change that and take part in making people aware. What I'd like to do now is, a lot of people streamed in for the 6 o'clock start. We are going to take one, it's only 2 minutes long. I think it's worth a second look. We have videographers here now, and we're going to take a second look. Then I'm going to turn this over to Dennis, who will introduce our main speakers for this evening. So we're going to go ahead and turn the lights out again. If somebody can trip those, I'll get these, and we'll take a look, and we'll turn it over to Dennis. honestly, if that doesn't paint a picture of why we're here, I don't know what will. This valley is enjoyed by paint a picture of why we're here, I don't know what will. This valley is enjoyed by everyone. The county, the Southern California comes here, and it is just absolutely incredible. One of the most important things that needs to happen at this meeting, however, is not sorrow and regret and anger, but action. And one of the questions many of you are going to be asking is, what now? What do we do now? People are angry, we understand, and we're with you. But we have some people here who have been fighting this battle for quite some time. And I'd like to introduce Dennis Chaprakanti. I don't know if I'm saying that name correctly, but Dennis is here. I'm afraid I don't have that name. Dennis can help us, but he is the co-founder of a foundation that has been fighting to protect communities in our area, even out east of here, where they're trying to stop the route that he can tell you more about. But I want to turn it over now to Dennis, and he's going to have a few words, then introduce our main speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Dennis Traficani from Santa Isabel. I'm probably wondering why I'm down here from Santa Isabel. I think I'm going to get a chance to speak to you a little bit later, but first I want to do a couple of things. I want to first let you know that my daughter prepared the graphics on this, and probably most of you don't know this. I hope you understand it. Semper Energy, bringing you yesterday's ideas today. You know, 19th century technology, which is transmission lines, into the 21st century. But what kind of a car is that at the bottom of the picture? Did you get it? That's an Edsel! Also, I wanted to show you something real quick. The story behind this whole transmission line, I call it the Sunrise fossil fuel plant, fossil fuel line. The reason is natural gas comes from Asia, it goes to Baja, it goes to their power plant in Mexicali, and then it comes across our lines. It's coming through the Southwest Power Link right now. And what they want to do, I had a big fight with an SDG&E official just a little while ago. He says, this is not applicable. This is wrong. You're misleading people. Because it's an old picture of what they wanted to do, go the northern route through the park. And we don't have as much money as they do. They got a much bigger room than us, right? But anyway, if it was done right with the new decision that was made by SDG&E just in November of last year, it would be going on the south, and then they're going to close the loop later and run it up to LA, because that's what they're after, the LA market. But I'll talk to you later about that. I want to talk to you about, it seems it's been 3 years now that I've been involved in this, and it seems like I've known Diane Jacob. I don't even know if Diane knows who I am. I know she knows who I am today, but she's seen me speak, and I've seen her speak so eloquently. I think I learned a lot from Diane Jacob. I really this is a privilege for me to introduce her. I want to tell you that she's the city supervisor representative for Lakeside and Santa Isabel, for both of us. I've been fighting this for 3 years. I feel like I've been alongside of Diane for 3 years. And she's preached, she's wanted them to agree that there would be guaranteed renewables on the line. If they're going to build a line at all, they refuse to do it. SDG&E refused to do it. They just want to get the dirty, cheap power. November 17th of 2008, Diane talked about the decision that was made and her protest. On May 12th of 2008, she says, I remain steadfastly opposed to the project in entirety, including the preferred route and the alternate routes. Sorry, I wish I had 3 hands. She said, back in, I think it was, here it is. May of 2007, same thing. She's totally against the line. I felt like she was on our side the whole way, and a lot of you people weren't there when we were fighting it up in the north, but you are here today. And I want to tell you that she's been the one political official that's been on our side the whole time. And I really have the privilege of introducing Diana Griffith to you this evening.
Dennis, thank you very much, and good evening, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here with you. Before I talk about the power link, I understand some of you missed me last Wednesday night, and I want to tell you that I missed you too. But I was in Ramona at a meeting, and I had a commitment to be at that meeting prior to knowing about your meeting last Wednesday night, and as I've always tried to do is to do what I say I'm going to do, and I felt that I needed to keep my commitment to the people of Ramona that I promised that I would be there that night. So please accept my apologies. It's not an excuse, it's just a fact. But rest assured that I am with you, and even though we're a ways down the process, that we should not give up. In fact, my motto is never give up.
Amen.
The fight is not over, and I will outline some things that I think that we can work on and continue to do to hopefully stop this unnecessary line. Let me just go over a few things that I've emphasized before in no less than 5 different hearings in front of the California Public Utility Commission and community meetings that I've attended, and I applaud all of you for your interest and being engaged in this. And Dennis, I want to thank you. You have been untiring in your efforts, and Donna Tisdale and many others. I have never seen the numbers of groups, and I mean powerful organizations that have come together to fight a cause before in this region. And I've never seen so many people united. So let me talk just a moment about the process. To me, this process was unprecedented and very confusing for me, for all of us. And I think a lot of you here tonight can testify to that. Nobody ever thought that we'd be here fighting against a line going through the El Monte Valley. This was the single largest environmental impact report that was ever done in the history of the state of California on any project. 7,500 pages of an environmental document, 6 volumes. I mean, it was huge. It analyzed the preferred route through the Anza Borrego Desert State Park and down through the Santa Isabel Valley, and as Dennis told you, that's how he got involved in this. That was the preferred route, always was until recently the preferred route. It was SDG&E's preferred route. But it also, in that document, it analyzed 27 alternative routes, including the no project alternative, which is the one that should have been voted on and approved by the CPUC. All the routes combined impacted dozens and dozens of communities, and most all of those communities, overwhelming communities in the supervisorial district, which I represent. The evidence, in my opinion, speaks for itself, and it's not just my opinion. If you read all of that document, those 7,500 pages, I won't ask you if you have or not, but the evidence is there. And one of the commissioners, actually, Commissioner Greenwich, was the one that finally in the end made a recommendation that if this line was to go through, then they should condition the construction of the line on putting 33% renewables over the line. Not even 100%, but 33% renewables like SDG&E said that they were going to do in the first place. SDG&E said, no, we will not accept that. So I have no reason to believe that there will be any renewables going across this line. In fact, to the contrary, as Dennis alluded to, that I think this line really is to bring energy up from Mexico from a fossil fuel plant that is owned by Sempra, the parent company of SDG&E. And there's no intention of bringing renewables. I can talk about that in a moment. But back to the EIR. In the environmental document itself said that it came to the same conclusion that I came to a long time ago, all of the opposition came to, that we do not need this line to meet San Diego region's energy demands now or into the future. Clear and convincing evidence. The line is not needed. So after all the research, all the science that had been performed, years of studies on animals, plants, hydrology, geology, very sophisticated fire modeling, by the way, the experts found the line is not needed. Yet, the California Public Utilities Commission approved it anyway. Why did they do that? How could they ignore that evidence? Well, I'll tell you. In my opinion, is that those commissioners are appointed by none other than the governor. And the governor, in an unprecedented action, wrote a letter to the CPUC. And it was the president of the CPUC that actually led the charge to approve the route that is now before us. Fire danger. This was an issue that I testified to over in Borrego. There were 4 of the 5 public utility commissioners at that meeting. And I said to them, if you ignore all else in this environmental document, and by the way, there are only a couple of pages in the 7,500-page report that talked about fire and fire danger, but I pleaded with them, if you ignore everything else in there, pay attention to what it says about the fire risk of this line. And it was real clear. It said that the fire danger cannot be mitigated. Cannot be mitigated. That means there is nothing that SDG&E could do to change the results of the conclusion. It said that no matter what precautions SDG&E takes, that the fire danger posed by the line can't be eliminated. It was rated as the highest threat risk possible. And the fire danger is there in black and white, spelled out in the environmental document. And this line, not only will it create a higher fire risk where this line is located, but also it will hinder and prevent fire officials from making water drops and ground crews from dousing flames near the line. They ignored that, unfortunately.
Boo! Ditto.
I hope that wasn't for me.
No. Never.
We're all facing a Goliath opponent. I've characterized this fight as a David and Goliath fight. SDG&E is owned by Sempra Energy. If you looked at the business section of the paper today, you'll see that Sempra is doing quite well financially. They're a member of the big oil lobby, and folks, that's as big as it gets. SDG&E representatives sit on numerous boards of industry groups and trade groups, downtown chambers of commerce, other chamber of commerce, other East County groups. They not only sit on these groups as members of their boards, but they donate lots of money in the community to various organizations. And if you go to SDG&E's Sunrise PowerLink website, you'll see the groups that are supportive of the line follow the money. I would suggest to you that because SDG&E and Sempra have been very successful in donating lots of money to chambers of commerce, that they have bought influence, not just locally, but at the state level. And to me, that's a crying shame, and we should not stand for that. Also, and I pointed out at a hearing, Board of Supervisors, that many of these groups and individuals, some elected officials in our region that early on supported the line, they did it even before the environmental documents were completed. They didn't even know what the facts are. They didn't care to know what both sides were. Their vote was bought, in my opinion. Another thing that I observed that's happened, communities were pitted against communities. SDG&E wanted the northern communities to say, put it in the south. And they wanted southern communities to say, put it in the north. In other words, not in my backyard. It didn't work because the communities stuck together. And as Dennis and Donna Tisdale can tell you, communities were smarter and they refused to let SDG&E divide them. And instead, we did the math and we determined that the line wasn't needed at all. So together, we've not only been fighting for the last 3 years, but we'll continue the fight. And then let me touch on again the fact that the renewable claim is what I would classify as a fossil fuel lie. How about that? In one of my earliest meetings with SDG&E, and I met with them and I talked with them, I asked them to guarantee that the power from Sempra-owned fossil fuel plants in Mexicali would not travel on this line. In other words, guarantee it's going to be for renewables and you're not going to bring the energy from that line in Mexicali. Guess what? They refused. So, what kind of a company claims that a line is needed to meet a renewable mandate, but cannot even tell the public how much clean power will travel on the line?
They're dishonest.
Then there's the Sterling Solar Project. I just love this one because this is the project that they're touting is going to be this big, huge solar project in Imperial County that they're going to bring all this solar energy into San Diego over this line. Why they need the line. This solar technology is untested. It's not permitted. And it leaks nitrogen. And these are experts saying this, not just me. And worse, it's located way out in the desert. So SDG&E basically would rather build experimental dishes in the desert than put solar on your roof. And there's a reason for that. And I contend, and I made this comment in my State of the County address, and I've shared it with other folks, think about it for a moment. Imagine with me if we put solar power on every single rooftop in the San Diego region. And we could do that by using federal incentives, and there's going to be more money coming in from the federal and government, state incentives, and we use the $2 billion to build this line to incentivize individuals and businesses to put solar on their rooftops. We're working on a couple of initiatives right now, which we've tried for the last couple of years to get a state law passed, because right now, if you want to put solar on your rooftop, you get credits. If you use more than you need, it rolls over month to month, but at the end of the year, guess what? SDG&E gets it. You don't get it. We need to change in the law, and we're working on that again this year to make sure that at the end of the year, you, the homeowner that makes the investment, gets fair market value for your excess solar, not SDG&E. I contend that law change alone is going to bust open the whole solar industry in this region and throughout the state. Why haven't we been successful? You probably know why. It is not in SDG&E's best interest to have a law like this passed. Could you imagine the day you wouldn't have to pay a bill to SDG&E, our utility company? You'd be energy independent. Why, that would not help their bottom line, would it? SDG&E, in my opinion, also has dirty motives, literally. Sempra and SDG&E have invested heavily in natural gas generation in Mexico. They need to keep you addicted to foreign oil to get a return on their investment. It's as simple as that. It's the bottom line. Sunrise is the expensive extension cord designed to make that happen. Solar on your roof and other clean projects would put SDG&E out of business. Sunrise was a decision rooted in the past, like you saw here, not in the future. And finally, the PUC vote was an absolute sham. Not only is the line not needed, but the PUC vote was an absolute sham. Terrible, terrible travesty happened at that meeting in December, and that was just December of last year. I consider it one of the biggest injustices ever perpetrated done to us in this region. In the face of all the science and all the research and all the data and that 7,500-page document saying the line isn't needed, 4 political appointees in San Francisco went ahead and approved this line anyway. In my mind, it's an absolute sham. Now, that sham was moved to the courtroom. Next steps and what we can do from here on. We all need to support the lawsuits that have been filed by UCAN and the Center for Biological Diversity. The Center for Biological Diversity has filed a lawsuit on the environmental document without getting into detail because I'm not an attorney, but that's their lawsuit. UCAN has filed a lawsuit that basically says that the evidence in the record does not support the decision that the PUC made. We'll see what happens in court. Anything can happen, but these lawsuits should go all the way to the Supreme Court if necessary. Now the trick is, will they be able to get an injunction to stop the construction of this line until this legal process plays out? On the face of it, it looks like the lawsuits have a very good chance, but who knows? We need to support them. All of you need to support them. You might even think about getting together in the Lakeside community, your own attorney, and to join in on these lawsuits. That's your decision to make. Another issue is there still is not approval from the supervisor of the Cleveland National Forest. He's relatively new in San Diego County, and I've met with him a couple of times, made his acquaintance. And I would offer to put together a meeting, myself and some representatives, and sit down and have a little heart-to-heart talk with him and see what we can do. If we have Congressman Hunter's support on this, because it's a federal agency, maybe we can get them to weigh in and say, no, we're not going to allow you to build a line through our property. Talk to Dennis, certainly talk to Donna, talk to others that have been engaged in this, and talk to me anytime. They're well tapped into other groups. They have a lot of good information. And what you're doing tonight also is tell your story to the media. An organization like SDG&E and SEMPRA, they don't like bad publicity. They like good publicity. So, but tell your story to the media. And I just raise as much cane as you possibly can, and I'm happy to help you do that in any way I can. By the way, you probably need to let the Union Tribune know about your feelings too. The editorial board did take a position in support of the Sunrise Power Link. I think you should ask them and write letters to the editor, or go down and see them, talk to them, ask them why they did that. How could they ignore the evidence in the record and do such a thing? So, let's give her hell and keep up the fight, and any way I can help, I'm there for you and I'll be there, and let's hope that we succeed in the end.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Diane. Those of you who came in late, I mentioned earlier it was actually Diane's office that paid for and reserved this room for the night. So we have an ally, and we need to align ourselves with the powers that be, and she's one of them, and we need her help. We invite you to join us, and thank you for being here. She mentioned a couple of things about SDG&E. I wish some of you could have been at the meeting last week. There was a gentleman up here whose name escapes me, but he was relating watching his power meter on his house roll backwards because he had installed solar, and so it's not a fantasy. That stuff really does have potential, and I think she's going to be able to help us, help guide us in ways we can pursue that. Our next speaker is someone that I grew up with or feel like I grew up with, although I just said hello to her the first time in my life. Those of you that are my age or older, I'm sure grew up watching The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and I'm sure you enjoyed a regular on that show, one of our own local residents, Joan Embry. She's here, and we're all very familiar with her and her involvement in the community and with wildlife. So Joan, would you come on up, and we're going to hear a few words from you.
Well, last week at our county planning board, if you weren't privy enough to be here, didn't have the time, didn't make it, you would have found a rather surprised group of planners who really didn't have a clue what was happening in Lakeside. The SDG&E representatives came to present their cause. They brought us their cards. You'll notice if you pick up their cards, there are no names on that card. They brought us a map. You'll notice if you pick up the map and look at it, it's pretty difficult to make anything of it. We kind of were hit blindsided with this project. Being an individual who lives with towers on my property, I want to explain to you that having lived here for over 35 years on a historic ranch site on the corner of Wildcat and Willow, when I came to Lakeside to live on the ranch, there was one tower. Then there were two. Then there were three. It doesn't end when the tower's in place. We constantly have helicopters flying at low elevations over those lines. We have subcontractors who come onto our property on a regular basis pleading ignorance. No one takes the responsibility. It's always somebody at SDG&E, but we don't have a name, we don't have a card, we don't have anybody to talk to. We have to ferret that out. These intrusions include dynamite, helicopters, pickup trucks, semi-tractor trailers, motor graders. You know what I'm talking about when I say motor grader? The tires are 8 foot tall. They block our driveways, they impact our horses and our animals, boom trucks, tree trimmers. They even have lunch on our property when they come to work, chainsaws, and poison. We constantly have interference in what we'd like to have a relatively quiet life by SDG&E and all of their various subcontractors. It's amazing to me that we can underground that line coming into El Monte Valley, but the most beautiful valley in East County, in fact probably in most of San Diego County, that we have to put towers through the entire valley. There are golden eagles up on the hillside. The San Diego River Park has been working to create open space for both wildlife corridors and for people. And it was mentioned that the San Diego River Park was looking forward to the possibilities of working on this project and excited about those possibilities. Being on the board of directors for the San Diego River Park, I called Michael Beck, who's the chairman, and said, Michael, I don't recall any discussion of this power line. Here's his response. The board of directors of the San Diego River Park Foundation has not considered the proposed alignment of the Sunrise Power Line. It would be inappropriate and inaccurate to represent otherwise, particularly any notion of support. Secondly, the Endangered Habitats League, which is working to create a 1,000-acre nature park and preserve and wildlife corridor through the El Monte Valley. The response from this organization is the Endangered Habitats League and the Endangered Habitats Conservancy is working on securing and enhancing wildlife movement through Harbison Canyon, Putz Valley, and the El Monte Valley. This power link alignment will significantly compromise this effort. EHL and EHC do not support this alignment. I have not heard any discussion on the compensation for the total destruction of the beautiful view and the beautiful resources we have in El Monte Valley. Just remember that when you have a problem, when you have the equipment on your property and the surveyors and you call, you're going to get an 800 number and somebody who answers the phone, but no name, because the people here presenting this project will not be the people you'll be talking to as it moves forward. If you want to stop this project, The Trestles Toll Road was stopped. The Anza-Borrego project was stopped. You're going to have to pull together with every might and every effort you have and work cohesively as one group and stand up against this project. And as Diane said, support those people who are leading the charge in every way you can and rally every individual in this community to stand up as well. This is something, have you ever seen a tower come down? No. This is something that'll be here for a very, very long time. In our lifetime, we'll be living with this. 20-story high towers destroying one of the most beautiful valleys in the county. So, join the charge. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. We have another guest with us tonight, and it's my privilege to introduce him to you. I've had the privilege of working with him on School of the Future Committee at the district office, and he is a very interested man, very caring individual who is absolutely as interested in this and involved in the community as all of you are. It's my pleasure to introduce you Mark Baker. He is the chief of the Lakeside Fire Protection District, and he's here to share a few words, and he has indicated that he's willing to answer questions if you have a few. We do have some more speakers, so if you have a brief question, there'll be an opportunity for that in just a moment. If you have statements that you want to make or share with the community, there will be an opportunity for that a little bit later. But Mark.
Thank you very much. Again, I'm Mark Baker, Fire Chief for the Lakeside Fire Protection District. I'm also a resident here of Lakeside. Also, what I want to have with me today is my esteemed colleague, Greg Schreiner. He's our Division Chief and Fire Marshal. So he keeps us all safe before anything happens. You know, I'm not sure I can articulate it any better than Supervisor Jacobs. And as far as our concerns for fire safety and fire suppression activities. And Supervisor Jacobs, I want to compliment you very much and thank you for all the support she's given to the fire services here in San Diego. So thank you. As far as what I'm representing the fire district position here tonight, is that we're not for the project, but neither are we against the project. We are concerned that certain issues related to fire safety and fire suppression capacities related to the Lakeside Fire District have not been addressed. In California, there's the CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act, that requires an EIR, an environmental impact report, for any new project. That environmental impact report requires solicitation from every agency or entity that will be impacted by a new project. One of those impact is under fire suppression and fire prevention. And the fire authority having jurisdiction should have input. A simple little fact, Lakeside Fire Protection District, through which this line is proposed, has not been requested or solicited to have any input into this. Okay, from that, there are kind of two issues, one causation and one suppression that Lakeside Fire District would like to get addressed and mitigated. One thing about high tension lines, they can fractionally increase the potential of a fire being started. The lines in themselves inherently have that small fractional percentage that it could cause a fire. Also, during the construction process, they introduce the potential of a new ignition source. Hopefully, and we're in the process of trying to engage SDG&E and SEMPRA in that discussion, we can mitigate all those. But to this date, they have not requested anything of the Lakeside Fire Protection District, and as we are reviewing the EIR that they did submit, we haven't been satisfied that they've addressed the causations of fires and mitigated those satisfactorily. The second is that if and when a fire starts for whatever reason and is transmitted or transgresses through, under, around the power lines, inherently there are two issues that affects our suppression capabilities. It's our aerial firefighting capacities that we have so hard worked here in San Diego County to improve. Anytime there are high transmission lines, it inhibits and hampers our ability to provide the suppression efforts, particularly compared to the fact that there are no lines there today. Those lines are going through a historical area that we've had fires in for 100 years. Also, your ground forces have to be very cautious when we start working around high power transmission lines as we start trying to fight fires. There are inherent dangers that are there. There are conditions that can create ground faulting from the high power lines down to the ground and cause injury or death to the firefighters. And so our fire suppression capacity and capabilities are slowed when we're fighting fires around transmission lines. Again, both those aerial firefighting and ground force firefighting capacities are diminished, and we have not been able to interpret from the EIR that was written, nor has SDG&E engaged us, and how those are going to be mitigated so we don't have more difficulties in fighting fires. Now, that being said,
it's been suggested, and I agree, that we wait on questions, and he'll be here on a panel of people who can answer, along with Dennis, who has a long history and knowledge of this issue, all questions together. So we will have a question and answer session directly following. That'll give us an opportunity to move to our next speaker. Thank you very much, Mark. We appreciate it. Your continued support. And I gotta tell you, you know, firemen took a lot, I don't mean to make a pun, they took a lot of heat. I don't mean fire, they took a lot of heat. And I gotta tell you that when I was over at my uncle's place at 3 in the morning, watching those winds, and I've seen my own house burn down when I was 36 years ago. 3 in the morning, they were out fighting their eyes out everywhere. And if they had 50 or 100 trucks at my uncle's property where I was, they couldn't have stopped that fire. So, but they were working their buns off, and I think we need to give a round of applause and show our appreciation. Our next guest and speaker is, I believe, Donna Trisdale. Donna, are you here? Donna has worked for quite some time. I can't even tell you how long, but I had the opportunity last night to meet her and speak with her, and she is a well of advice on how to proceed in these kinds of things. She's produced a video that we're going to try and help distribute, and she is a wealth of information. So if you have a question or would like to see how you can become involved, I think she'll be glad to help you become acquainted with that. Donna?
Thank you all for coming, by the way. This is step 1, getting in the community out. Step 2 is to get you to continue to participate, and you need to kick in some money to defend yourself, because nobody's going to really do it for you. We'll help, but it has to come from the bottom up. Okay, can you hear me better now? I'm not a very good speaker. I became an activist probably in 1989 when a landfill was proposed next door to me, 600 acres on the Indian Reservation, right next to our wells. And I haven't really stopped fighting since, because things keep coming. And the power line, I think in 2005, they talked about the power line going up through Anza Borrego. And then they said, well, maybe we're going to have a second alternate route down south, but we really don't want that one, so don't really worry about it. But, you know, once you're on the map, you really should worry, especially when you're up against so many people that love the Anza Borrego, including myself. But so many people turned out for that the route got pushed down to this end, and the battle continues. And I hate to correct Jacob, but the lawsuit has not actually been filed by CBD, Center for Biological Diversity, yet. They filed a motion for stay, and both Center for Biological Diversity and Sierra Club have filed for a rehearing with the Public Utilities Commission, as has Utilities Consumer Action Network. And that is step one before you can actually file the suit. They don't expect that the PUC will rehear it, but they have to go through the steps. My nonprofit group is actually getting ready to sue the BLM, and we're writing a letter to the forest, and that may be our next suit, because there's a lot of beautiful valleys involved in this. It starts in Imperial Valley, Acumba Valley, McCain Valley, La Posta Valley, Cameron Valley, Hauser Canyon, Star Valley, El Monte Valley. So all these beautiful areas are impacted in the same way, and everybody loves their valley. And the bottom line is, this project isn't needed. There are better ways to do it. You don't have to say, put it over there, because they don't need to put it anywhere. We need to do what Supervisor Jacobs said and start seriously pursuing solar. And I'd already have it if I wasn't paying for a lawsuit. So nothing is a done deal yet. They would love you to think that it's a done deal, but it's not. And as I said at the planning group meeting the other night, they are in the room here with you tonight, pretending to be one of you, but they're taking names and they are making notes, and this will go back to headquarters, and they'll find out who are the troublemakers and who they need to be paying attention to. I'm not one. But I do engage SDG&E and SIMPRA, and I make them talk to me and answer questions. Don't let them get off the hook. You know, and if they show up at your door, ask, what are you doing here? Where's your warrant? Or whatever. And if you have a gate that locks and you don't want them in, lock the gate. You know, make them go to court. Don't make it easy for them. You don't have to roll over. You got rights. It's your property for now, you know, until they take it away from you. And don't do it kicking and screaming. You know, don't go down with a whimper. You know, go out with a fight. So anyway, it's been a very long process, and it's not over yet. And it takes a lot of commitment and a lot of energy, and you have to stick with it. If you don't, you're going to end up with this in your neighborhood. And I'll tell you what, I already have the Southwest Powerlink in my neighborhood. And once there's one, just like Miss Embry said, then there's two, then there's three, and that you are the corridor. So that's the other thing. Now with President Obama and his new Secretary of Interior and Energy, they're really pushing these so-called renewable energy projects, solar, wind, but the big projects need a lot of backup generation. And SEMPRA stands ready with their LNG facilities in Baja. They also have another permit application for a cross-border line at Acumba. And they said it's for wind energy, but they have they'll have a transmission line, they have a gas line right there. And they said, well, we don't have any water. And I said, well, I was just there, and they're installing a big water line right through your project. So that's all you need for another gas-fired power plant, is gas, water, and a power line. So they've got a lot of plans, and they've got a lot of money, but there's nothing stronger than the power of the people when they put their mind to it. And we can be very devious, and we can be very strategic, and there's always somebody that's smarter than them. So we just got to figure out, you know, who that is and put them to work on our side. So anyway, thank you for being here, and I think there should be a pass the hat or a collection jar or something, because this community needs to get ready to defend itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. In just a moment, Laura's going to come back and make some closing comments, after which we've been reminded that there are people who are streaming in from the propaganda room over there, wink wink, over at SDG&E, and I got to tell you, it is one slick production over there. Isn't that just really slick? I mean, it is. It takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of money, and to encourage you as you look forward and ask questions about what we got together and said enough. And interestingly, it had a lot to do with electrical energy. Fancy that. Another example, just last week. People in my generation and younger might be more acquainted with Facebook, but it's taken over the world. and they slipped in a little one-liner in their terms of service that took complete ownership of anything you posted on their site, and one person caught it. How many of you read those little disclaimers in the software? And nobody reads it, but someone did, and they got a hold of the media, and the media got a hold of the world, and within 24 hours they reversed themselves. So just as an encouragement, don't give up. It's not a done deal till it's in your yard, and then it is a done deal. So let's do something about it before that happens. Laura or Dennis? Okay, Dennis has a few more words, and we are close to wrapping up, but there will be opportunity for questions when we're finished.
Please remember this, and this is very important. In this fight, we're using environmental groups like Center for Biological Diversity, the Sierra Club. We're also using people that are conservative landowners. We're also using people that are very liberal. I just want to say one thing. We can go to the dance together, but that doesn't mean we have to go home together. What I mean by that is we all believe in this project. You don't have to believe that everything that I do or anybody else does, but that's really important to remember. Let's stay unified on this project. The other thing is, people ask me why I have this bandana on my neck. Well, the answer is, when I get upset about something like SDG&E, the hair on the back of my neck starts to rise. Thank you.
I just want to say some closing comments, and I had a prepared speech, throwing that away. There's just so much I want to say. But earlier I talked a little bit about our rights as a community, how it just seems like a total betrayal to our community here in Lakeside that we did not get a chance to have our input. Now, SDG&E will tell you that this was a fully vetted process, that everyone got to participate, but you know in this room, earlier when we raised hands, no one had received notification. At least no one was aware that they had received notification. Giving notification and giving notification that people can actually is effective and is appropriate form of communication is one thing. If in this changing times, we don't all watch the same television shows, we don't read the same newspapers, the world is changing, the way that we communicate is changing. It's inappropriate for a community to lose the right to have a voice because they didn't see the small little fine print blurb that affected their community. It's just wrong. Now our community needs to stand together as one. 3 weeks ago I didn't know about this. After last week's planning meeting, about 8 of us said, you know what, we need to have a meeting, we need to have a meeting, we need to get the word out. This room is packed full, and I see a lot of faces that I did not see here last week. Next time it can be twice as many. If we wait until we have another Cedar fire, let's call it the El Monte fire, and we're all losing our neighbors' lives, our pets, our property, that's not the time to come together. The time to come together is now. So do not underestimate the threat. Don't go home and say, well, they're too big, I guess I'm going to have to get used to this. This is a fire in our backyard, and this is taking away our community's rights to have a symbol of our community, our heart. Our heart is in El Capitan Mountain, and we should have had a say. So there are people in this room that are going to continue the fight. It's not we're going home and we're done. We are dedicated and committed. One of the first things we're going to do is start to get a list of those individuals who say that they did not receive appropriate notification or they were not aware of notification. And I want to see just how many people there are out there that weren't aware that there is a fire danger that cannot be mitigated, that's going to be put in our backyard, and that we're going to have to pay for the loss while SDG&E and Sempra pay out dividends. So please, I'm committed to the fight. I know there are a lot of you that are committed to the fight, and it's a fight we cannot afford to lose. So we're going to show a video that was put together by Mark, and thank you very much for being here.
Just a little aside, while someone was speaking, I snuck over across the hall and invited a few of the SDG&E folks over here to see the video, and I don't see any of them, but funny that there's nobody, but although I guess there are a few people in and amongst us, but an interesting thing happened at the meeting last week, and a lot of people noticed it. Jody Morgan, my uncle. He had the before and after photo that you'll see in this little quickie 2-minute presentation. And there was a very quiet but a collective gasp when the overlay was placed, and everyone saw, for the first time, a legitimate, placed at the stakes where they put them, image from a home site right here in Lakeside in El Monte Valley. And well, we smiled because the SDG&E spokespeople they sent went over to the seats so they could listen to the presentation. And I have to tell you that I have a feeling that that was the first time those three had seen something like this. And they were very happy to tell you, you know, when you go on Google Earth, it's not that bad. And I wanted to say, if we lived on a satellite where Google Earth takes their pictures, I would agree with you. But we live here. And I think it was made clear to them. I'm going to invite them again, but we're going to play just a 2-minute video again, which really paints the picture one last time for those of you that just arrived. And then we have some very knowledgeable people who will be happy to answer questions. You'll have an opportunity to come up if you'd like to stay. We will be here. Just a little idea, someone already came up and asked if they could get a copy of that. I can produce those for about 75 cents a DVD, and I'm not asking for donations, but it just occurred to me that maybe we could get together and get some of those out to the community, and be happy to donate time on that. We've got people who would like to see that. Maybe, yeah. Maybe even less than that, maybe 50 cents. So I think we're going to probably have some questions, and we have some experts here who are prepared. So if there's someone who would like to, if you'd like to come up, or I have a wireless mic that I can come to you. So either way. Okay, yes, we also want to open mic to community members. So if you have a comment also, we want to hear from you. We would only ask that try to keep it brief. I'm one to talk, no more and keep anything brief, but you're welcome to comment. So, were you wanting to speak, ma'am, or did you have a question?
I wanted to ask a question.
Okay. You know what? I just realized that our wireless is not functioning well. So if you want to speak clearly, we'll make sure we repeat the question, or if you'd like to come to the podium, we welcome you up here. Sure, if you don't mind.
Hi, I'm Catherine Gorka, and I'm adjusting myself. Real close. Can you hear me?
Real close.
Closer?
Yeah.
Yes? Higher? Higher? Closer?
Yeah, there you go.
All right. I live in El Monte Valley, and a lot of the neighbors recognize me. What happens to our property, because we'll be uninsurable? That is another big issue that I fear. There's no protection for the fire, and the insurance policy will be astronomical. So put us out with the zapping and the fire, and the valley is gone, and nobody really addresses any of the big issues. A lot of the people, thank you for coming, that don't live in the valley, because we're very few, but it's our valley. Everybody drives down there, everybody takes pictures, they go to El Monte Park. This is our land, not their tower land, and I stand to fight them till I die. Or get fried, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come up?
I just have a question, you can repeat it. I've signed 3 things with email addresses now. If you say we're going to come together as one, what is that going to look like when it comes back to me in an email? How will I know it's from this group?
Okay, it'll probably have Laura's name on it, I imagine. Even if it's not composed by her, we're going to try to get our act together on that. I got to tell you, again, to encourage you to take action, this is new to all of us. Jody, the guy who took the before and after photos, he's only known about this for, what, 3 weeks? I've known about it for a week.
At the bottom of the program, it says email address, that is Save El Cap. We need to get bigger too, community. But you can email that right away and get on a screened list, because I will ask you questions. I want to know where you live and why you want to join the group.
Are you referring to El Cap as the reservoir or the mountain?
I'm in my heart, it's that, the mountain, the reservoir is incredible too. It's
No,
just,
but I mean, the mountain is El Cajon.
you're right, I'm using the local name of love, El Cap.
What is the website again, please? El Cap.
It is Save El Cap at Yahoo.
One of the issues we had at last week's meeting, we had a yellow pad going around where people wrote their email addresses. I did a mailing to that list, and quite a number of them came back undeliverable, and I believe it was probably just indecipherable handwriting. So if you write your email address, just go into non-doctor mode and really make it obvious and clear. If it's a 1 or if you don't know if it's a 1 or a small L, make sure we know it so that we can make sure to contact you. Someone else like to come up? Okay, sure. Question.
The fire department was not solicited for comments regarding the situation regarding the project coming in Valley. Can they submit a statement to somebody or to an organization that counts?
Okay, can you hold that question, because we're going to have the fire chief join us again, who spoke earlier, and he's here willing to answer questions. He'll be, yeah, they're gonna call him in. Were you here when he spoke?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I thought they were done. Thank you.
How's your name?
My name is Dan Seaman. Hi. I am fortunate enough to live in Blossom Valley, up looking over the valley, so thanks for mowing your lawns. What I wanted to say, I hope someone has contacted PLF. I've been donating to them for years, the Pacific Legal Foundation. I'll contact them too. But they've been very successful throughout the nation in stopping this kind of trash. And so hopefully we'll contact them, try to get something done there. But we do need to stick together, that's for sure.
What PLF? Pacific Legal Foundation.
Yeah, guys, when you came in this evening, there was a sign-in sheet. If you didn't sign in on there, there's a place for your email. Yeah. So again, if you have not done that, where should they go? Laura, was that?
Is the sheet still out there? You can give them to anyone at
Back of the room,
at the
man.
registration table. You can give them to me. You can give them to Mark. You can.
But if they didn't sign in on that registration
You
table.
can put it on the registration table. You can still make it a sign in, so that we can get communications out to you, so we can continue and grow and build.
And you walked right past the table. If you didn't sign in, you walked right past the table. Is that correct? Okay. Okay. Question? Yes, in the back.
Please make sure that people are talking into the microphone, because I think not being able to hear back here.
Yes. Yeah, Laura was just reiterating that if you have not left your email address, you can do that at the registration table at the entrance.
Any chairs open up front too.
Yeah, lots of chairs up here, guys. If you want to stick around, you're welcome to sit. Come on.
Hi, I'm Merle Clements from Pitts Valley in Alpine, and yesterday I had the opportunity of being off of El Cap Road, and I was picking up blocks for a project I have, and all of a sudden I looked around and I could see the existing towers, and this is over near Hanson's Lake, if any of you know where that is, and I was working down there. So I took 5 pictures, and it shows you what the towers look like already in El Monte Valley. So I thought I'd bring those and share them. I can email them to anybody on the email list should you want to see them. And I'm also the guy that talked a week ago that has the solar system in Alpine where my meter spins backwards. It's so wonderful. And we should put our money there. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ray Lutz, and I was
unfortunate, I guess, to see a lot of this happen. I have been recording most of the meetings, and I will give the link to your contact so that you can distribute it to the friends that weren't able to come to the meeting. I will say this, that even though you think you didn't have a voice, I don't think that would have made much difference in the process that I saw. These people are used to a process that they have controlled for years. It's greased wheels, everybody's paid, and they get the result that they want every single time. This time, though, unusually, nobody shows up at their meetings usually, and in Ramona, in Mountain Empire area, out in Borrego, there was 1,000 people in the room. And so now is when the effort really starts. Get to know what happened. On the other videos that are there, you can go to those old meetings and see how ridiculous they were. Everybody came up to say this, about 90% of the people said, this has got to stop. In Borrego, they said, I didn't think I was an environmentalist, I'm a conservative guy, but I'm a cactus hugger now. And so they started to realize that these guys are not playing, they are only looking at their bottom line. I recommend that you look at kpbs.org. Amita Sharma did a wonderful piece on the Costa Azul liquefied natural gas terminal down near Ensenada, and exposed the whole thing about how they're bringing in that dirty gas. Take a look at that. I have links to that on the website, so let them have that, and hopefully that'll help you out here. Thank you. It is citizensoversight.org, Citizens Oversight, and I'll make sure there's an easy link to get into this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll go right here, and then you next.
Hi there, I'm Christina Smith, Cedar Fire survivor from Wildcat Canyon. I have a couple of questions and concerns, of course, regarding this, in addition to the ones that have already been brought up. One of them is, if the towers in some way begin a fire or impact a fire, or there's a fire coming from the other direction, where the power lines are located would be our only exit from the canyon, and that would be a real big concern for all of the residents of Wildcat Canyon. We were fortunate to get out in the Cedar Fire because the Lakeside Fire Protection District, in their wisdom, closed everyone into the Verona Casino and defended the casino so the residents could escape with their lives. So if that were to occur, I would be very concerned about that. Wildcat. Additionally, there's a major impact in Wildcat Canyon as well as in El Monte Park as to the county parks and the free use and enjoyment for the educational purposes of nature that they are all about. And to have somebody in Stelzer Park or El Monte Park out there to enjoy nature and to bring their children to learn about nature, only to find 20-story transmission lines, kind of defeats the purpose. So those are my big concerns, in addition to the ones that everyone else has stated.
Your timing is great. Our fire chief just rejoined us. We had a question just a moment ago. I believe the question here was Wildcat Canyon exit route. Is that impacted by the placement of these towers? Because I guess, was it the 2003 fire? That was your only escape route, and your question is with regard to impact on escape route from the valley. And then we had another lady here with a question for you as well.
Anytime transmission lines go over a roadway, there's always a potential that it could hamper the evacuation route. At least with Wildcat Canyon, you can go north or south, compared to El Monte Valley, where it's just a single entrance in, and then you have to turn around and come back out.
You said that your party was not solicited regarding the statement of this project regarding the impact of that on your party.
Repeat your questions.
And you want to just use the microphone? My question to the fire department is, they have not been solicited regarding a statement regarding the impact of this project and how it relates to their department. I'm wondering if you are going to prepare some type of statement that would address all of your concerns and get it submitted to those to whom it would make a difference.
At this point, we are engaging SDG&E and asking them why we have not had input. So until we can get some sort of response back for them, it would be premature to take any other actions. But we just found out about it a little over 10 days ago when we were invited to the Lakeside Planning Group meeting, and we found out that the new path in which the transmission lines are going to take are now inside Lakeside, down through El Monte and over through Wildcat.